Hey, 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 welcome to day 2 of the Get Up and Go Challenge. So what kind of soap should I use to deal with these challenges that keep popping up in my life? What do I do about this great big monkey on everyone's back right now, the COVID-19 challenge? What do I do about that? Well, we started talking about yesterday a little bit about the importance of frameworks and foundational things and knowing what it is that we want to achieve versus where we are given the different areas and aspects of our life. We talked about frameworks and foundations and fundamentals and the key areas that we want to pay attention to if we want to deal with challenges and obstacles that pop up in our life all the time. We're always being faced with problems and situations that challenge us and failures and obstacles and things that we need to solve or roadblocks we need to climb over in order to achieve anything we want in life. On any given day, right? Every good day, but especially now during this challenging time when so many of us are facing changes that are outside of our control, things that we've never had to face before. Millions of people are out of work for the first time in their entire life. Millions of people's businesses have been shut down for the first time since they've started those businesses or planned and put those businesses in place. The world is in a chaotic mess, and it's up to us, each and every one of us individually, to manage and clear the chaos out of our own lives so that we can contribute positively to the rest of the world and the environment and the economy and everything else that has been broken that needs to be repaired and fixed again. So how do we do that? We do that, and we did that by yesterday looking at each of the main areas of our life: our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being, our emotions, our emotional well-being, our relationships, and we're having a lot more emphasis on relationship these days, our financial situation, I might have said that one already, our contribution, finances and our contribution. And all those areas in our life, almost every area of our life has been impacted and taken a hit, and it's up to us to decide, well, what are we going to do about it? Now, we, each and every one of us, and then we shared yesterday, I shared and I picked mine in the comments below, I'm going to work on my physical well-being as the area, and I'm not afraid, I'll share my ratings. These are how I rated myself on each of these categories right now. And physical, it came down to pretty low because I have, like everybody else, slipped into some old habits and old ways of being and I've used COVID as an excuse. Come on, we all use excuses, and we all make excuses, and we all have reasons that sound really rational to our brain, but we know deep down that we're just making excuses and giving reasons for why we are or are not doing what we know is right for us. Well, so I decided, and I shared, that I'm going to work on, through this challenge, my physical well-being, making sure that I take my physical well-being from a 5, which, maybe it's not really a 5, but it's close to a 5, close to average compared to what other people are doing. Remember, it's just comparing us to ourselves, not to other people. But I don't want that to be a 5, right? I don't want to just be average. I want to be healthier and stronger and have more energy so I can do all the things that I really want to do in my life. So today we're going to start talking about soap and how we can use soap to clean up our way of dealing with challenges, how we can set it up as our core framework for making sure from this point on, every time we're faced with a decision, a challenge, a problem, an obstacle, a roadblock, something that's preventing us from getting the direct route to where we want to go, we'll know exactly how to handle it. We'll know exactly what to do. What does S in SOAP stand for? SOAP is, of course, an acronym, and I'm only going to tell you one day at a time what the letters mean and what they stand for. And S, the S in SOAP, stands for story. Well, now, why does it stand for story? Story or situation, because we want to, before we can ever change anything or solve any problems or do anything, we need to have a clear view, an idea of what the real situation is. A lot of times when you go to the doctor because you're having symptoms or an illness, they'll ask you about all your symptoms, but guess what? Your symptoms are just clues to what's really wrong with you. Your symptoms are not the problem, right? So until we get down to what the real root cause of the problem is, we can't offer up and solve that problem. We can't just mask the solutions. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a cut that's infected. If we don't get to the root cause of the infection and cure that, the person can actually die because we solved the wrong problem. We just put a Band-Aid on so blood wouldn't get anywhere, but that didn't solve the root cause of the problem. Now, I found over the course of my life that we all have a default way of dealing with situations that we feel are outside of our control. Mine, procrastination. I default automatically to freezing and procrastination and not doing anything. If I'm faced with a traumatic experience or a situation that I feel out of control in, I go inward and I just kind of hide away and shy away and I pretend that the problem doesn't exist. Not a very effective way of dealing with a challenge or a problem or a situation. All of us, you and I both, we all have our own automatic default way of dealing with stress, because challenges and change are stress, right? They put a stress on our system, and our subconscious already has its favorite way of handling that and protecting us and keeping us safe. Well, it's up to us to look at that, see that, and say, well, is that how I want to be in every stressful situation, every challenge, every obstacle, every problem that comes up? Do I want to procrastinate and hide away until the problem resolves itself? Well, not really. I don't want to just react to everything, because I know that things will get resolved, because over time almost everything gets resolved, but it's probably not going to get resolved in my favor. It's probably not going to move me the direction I want to go unless I am having an active part in the solution, right? So the first thing we want to be aware of is that we do automatically have a way of dealing with things, right? Some of us will run head on into that brick wall and head on into that problem and challenge and take massive action. Some of us will hide away like me. Others will procrastinate. Others will pretend it doesn't exist. Others will, we have a whole slew of behaviors that we can default to in order to deal with challenges. But what I want to do and offer you is a specific process and framework for dealing with challenges, so as soon as they come up, you know exactly what to do. And the first step in that is realizing the story that we're telling ourselves about the situation. And I want to provide a framework for this, because I have found that through my lifetime, I've learned certain things, and I've got certain tools in my own personal library or toolbox that I go back to and I use over and over and over and over again. And one of those is something I learned back in high school when I was the editor and the co-editor of our high school newspaper, was how to write a good article, how to make sure that you're considering everything that needs to be considered when you're looking at a situation. And that's to ask yourself the W questions, the who, what, why, when, where, and how of that situation. We used to do that to make sure that we had all the important things included in an article, in a journalistic article. Now, I'm not sure that journalists do that anymore. I suspect they kind of don't. I think they have a whole filter on everything. What's the who, what, why, when, how, and where that will give us the most views or the most bang for our buck and the most advertising dollars and the most manipulation in the direction that we want the story to actually go. I think there's that whole filter that's gone into the news world. But I still believe in the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and asking myself those questions about any situation that comes up. So instead of running away and hiding and procrastinating and watching, Netflix, Hulu, Popcorn Time, whatever they've got out there now, and doing that and hiding away from my problems and from my challenge, I want to run into it. And I do that by asking myself these questions. So one of the first ones that we evaluate with the S is the story that we're telling ourselves about the situation. What are some of the beliefs? And again, we're going to refer to the different aspects of us and bring those in so that we make sure we're not forgetting anything. Because it's really easy to create a solution that will optimize one of the areas of our life, but it might actually totally cut off another area of our life. And so we don't want to do that either, right? Because what happens if we cut off an entire area of our life? That area is going to give us a huge challenge and wake-up call. And then pretty soon, by ignoring it, we're going to be right into it, up neck deep in solving that particular problem or challenge. So we want to look at the situation and we want to ask ourselves those questions. Well, the who is us, right? Because we're looking at the situation, we're looking at challenges and how to handle them from our own perspective. So that's an easy one. The who is already answered. What is the challenge that I'm facing? Well, COVID-19 has got me, let's see, I'll use me. So COVID-19 has got me physically not following my normal routines and not taking as good a care of myself as I should be. And so that increases my risk of the possibility of getting sick, yada, 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 and the whole ball rolls downhill. So physically, if I'm asking myself that question, what is my current situation? Well, my clothes are tight. I have less energy. I'm tired a lot. I'm not feeling as motivated as usual. And then just list out what those things are for you. What is my current situation? because that's the what, right? What's going on? What's happened? What's the crisis? What? You can ask all kinds of different what questions. Then I want to ask myself, well, where am I at right now? So that's also answers the question, what's going on? Where am I at right now? What's my current situation? Who is you? When? And I like the when question, because when is this affecting me? Well, sometimes we know that we're going to have a challenge coming up down the road, and maybe you're thinking about financially when I go back to work, or financially when they start getting on me because I haven't made my house payment, or when whatever. But when is now, because why? The only time we can ever impact anything is in the present moment. Right now, this minute is the only time that we can do anything. So the answer to the when question is usually now, or hey, I've got to consider this, and I know in a week I'm gonna get called back to work. What do I need to do right now to make sure that I'm safe and protected when I get called back to work? So how, we'll talk about a little bit more in the other parts of the SOAP acronym. I couldn't remember the word acronym. In the other parts of SOAP, we'll talk about that. But today, our action item, what I want you to do is I want you to think about and share your story of where you are right now, and just with respect to the one area that you've selected yesterday that you're going to work on during this challenge. Because what we're going to do is we're going to apply this framework to your one primary area this week, and then you'll have practiced and you'll have actually done it and acquired the skills that you need to apply it to any situation, any area of your life that you want to going forward. But we need to pick one and start with one. So I say, hey, start with the one that you feel the most impacted by. I feel the most upset emotionally and impacted by my physical health, my appearance, my ability to have the energy to do what I want to do. My clothes being too tight is not a fun one for me, things like that. So that one's affecting me personally the most, so that's the one I have selected this week to work on. So with respect to SOAP, what is the story I'm telling myself? Well, because of COVID, I've used that as my excuse to eat foods I normally don't eat, to gain weight, even though I don't have a scale and weigh myself. I guarantee I've gained weight. To be sleepier and more tired and less energized and less excited about things than I normally am, etc. So that's my current situation in my physical area, and that's what I'm going to share as my action item in the comments below today. I'm trying to think of one. I had one more thing. Simple. Oh, the thing about frameworks, the thing about why I picked SOAP and why I want it to be something that we can all remember is because when it comes to tools and strategies and ways of being and doing things, to get the biggest impact from our effort, it has to be something simple that we're more likely to do. The more complicated systems get, and we'll talk about this in a couple of days when we talk about but the more complicated and well, we're going to start talking about tomorrow. I take that back. Tomorrow, as we get to the big O, we're going to talk about the fact that the more complicated a system, the less likely you are to use it. And that's why I try to keep things as simple as possible for myself and for other people. Now, it might help that I'm hanging around a 5-year-old. She just turned 5 this last week. My 5-year-old granddaughter every day, but that helps me to be curious, but keep things simple and explainable and understandable, because the simpler they are, the more likely to use them. The simple solution is usually the best solution. Can we make convoluted, complicated things that we try to get people to do? Yes, but the more complicated it is, the more steps it is, the more possibility of confusion, the less likely people are to do it. That's why we have one action item that we do every day. One thing that we do every day to move us through the process and understand the process to create what it is that we want, so that we can be better off after this pandemic than we were going into it. Now, you might be thinking about financially, you might be going through this process. So say financially, if finances were mine, what would I say? Say you lost your job, you got fired, and you're on unemployment right now, and you're not sure if your job is going to come back or not. It's been 2 months, and you're like starting to freak out, and maybe you haven't done anything up until now. Well, we're gonna take care of that. We're gonna help you know exactly what you need to do throughout the course of this week. So that's it. S is our thing for today. Our action item is to share in the comments below the one area that you're working on and what your current situation is with respect to that. And then also, where do you want to go? Because it doesn't do us any good to just look at our current situation if we don't know where we're going to go. So what's your current situation? What do you want it to be? My current situation is a 5 for my health. I want it to be a 7 or 8, right? I want to make sure that I'm moving up a couple of notches and continually improving and moving toward that. So that's our assignment tip for today. A little convoluted today. I've been doing too much this morning already. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. We'll talk about the big O, which is the next step in the process tomorrow. It might seem like we're really moving slow and we're not really doing much, but we really are, because we're laying the groundwork and the foundation and the framework for all of your challenges to come. Take care, have an awesome day, and I will be with you tomorrow. Bye.